Welcome back to the Bronx Buzz, and we're going to change gears here. This is a really important segment, actually. Many different things happen to a lot of people as a result of the pandemic, and we always seem to find, whatever category it is, it's people who have less resources, who have less of a voice, who kind of get the short end of the stick. Enter the City and Chalkbeat, two publications. They are taking a look at special education students and parents and families, of course, and trying to figure out how they can do better through this very difficult time of life for all of us. So let me welcome one of the engagement fellows at the City. It is Lauren Costantino. Nice to have you with us, Lauren.
Thanks, Gary. Nice to be here.
And a reporter for Chalkbeat is Alex Zimmerman. Alex, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having us.
Good. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Costantino, let's just talk about the City and why does this sort of project fit into the scope of what the City does and what you really want to do, aside from reporting the news so well that you always do?
So, projects like this are important to the city because we're always sort of looking for ways to create journalism that is collaborative among the communities that we cover. We're interested in hearing from the neighborhoods that we cover, sort of what issues are most top of mind for them. We try to make our reporting as responsive and as relevant as possible to these communities. So having events like this really allow us to sort of create more avenues of collaboration with these folks. Instead of just a one-to-one connection with the source, we're holding events and inviting people from all boroughs to come and speak on issues that are top of mind for them. And this special education newsroom is doing exactly that.
Let's be very open and honest. We're recording this on Monday. One of the sessions will be Wednesday of this week, but then there is another one that will be, I guess it's on Friday?
It's actually on Saturday, January 30th at
Right.
2 p.m. Yeah, so we just want to allow as many people as possible to come. If we know schedules are hectic, so that's where we're providing two opportunities
For everybody to participate. What do you hope to accomplish in this program?
Great question. So we're hoping from this conversation we're inviting panelists of a panel of experts to come and sort of speak on some of the issues that parents and teachers have told us have been really challenging for them. And so we're inviting, experts to come speak on those things and sort of have a more nuanced conversation. But we also want to have this event to foster connections within this community. People show up to these events, they're able to talk with one another in the breakout rooms, they're able to meet people that they wouldn't normally have met before, and get advice from parents who are navigating similar challenges, and to also come together and sort of brainstorm some solutions and ways that people have already been mitigating these issues amongst themselves.
Perfect segue to Mr. Zimmerman, who works for Chalkbeat, and they deal with education issues. Talk to me about conditions for children in special ed through this process. It's very obvious to me that they, in many ways, have been forgotten because they need additional support. And the last thing we all have in this circumstance is additional support. So talk to me about, in the spectrum of education, where special ed students are falling right now.
Yeah, I mean, providing special education services in the middle of a pandemic is really challenging. One of the biggest reasons it's really challenging is obviously lots of students with disabilities really thrive with lots of hands-on support. A lot of them receive one-on-one services or are in classrooms with multiple teachers. And one of the things that's been most challenging in the pandemic from an education perspective is that schools have to now staff two versions of school at the same time. They're trying to teach students who are coming into buildings, and at least for right now in elementary schools and for certain students with disabilities, and they're also trying to serve students who are fully remote. And so the schools are incredibly stretched thin in terms of staff, which makes providing really staff-intensive special education services difficult.
What you say sounds completely logical to me, completely unfortunate to me. Is one of the simple answers, as if there are simple answers, is one of the simple answers more funding, more support, more personnel, etc., which of course nobody has extra extra resources right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an ongoing conversation. We saw the governor put out his budget proposal for state education, and I think because of the funding issues that have been created by the coronavirus, it's a really challenging moment for state and city governments to suddenly infuse public schools with dramatically more money. So I'm not sure that that's going to be a super likely scenario right now. I know there are lots of advocates who are approaching this problem by really calling on the city to provide more compensatory services once kids can come back into buildings more to sort of provide extra services so that students can catch up, presuming that they will have fallen behind where they would have been otherwise. But you're right. I mean, there aren't one of the reasons we're interested in doing this open newsroom event is to really hear from people who are on the front lines, whether they're parents or educators, to really understand like what would be most helpful for them right now, because so much of the conversation around special education right now is all of the things that aren't working, which are numerous.
Yeah, that's not funny. Let's put it that way. Ms. Costantino, let's just talk about now. I realize you haven't done the sessions yet. What do you anticipate people saying that you think, number one, collaboratively it'll be good for them to hear, and then of course for experts and people in positions of responsibility they can respond to.
Um, I've heard from some experts on our panel. We'll have some people there, top names, advocates for children, include NYC. We're having some parent formed organizations there, and they're really excited to hear from parents and teachers, and like Alex was saying, as to sort of what would help them, and sort of are there things that they've already been doing in their own classrooms or on their own remote platforms during school that has been helpful for those students? And if so, how can we cover that and sort of highlight these solutions so that, everybody else asking these same questions can sort of get some answers? I think, to Alex's point before, news organizations are really good about covering issues and problems, and we do that all the time. And, we're sort of hoping that we can produce some more stories out of this that are a bit more solutions focused, that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a happy story or a positive story, but something that might affect some change. And we know that that can start by looking inward at the community and asking them what they've already been doing that's been working. So we're hoping for that as well.
Mr. Zimmerman will give you the final word. I mean, I know that I saw a Zoom class of children who were in the regular track, and the music teacher was trying to teach percussion, and these were young children, maybe first or second grade, and they were just sitting there blankly at the screen. The challenges for a special ed child who needs care and love and one-to-one in this day and age must be very difficult. I guess you're hoping here to open a dialogue that will reach into people who have some resources.
Yeah, and I think you can, in just talking to lots of parents and educators, you know, things can be really small bore and still be really helpful. So, for example, we often hear from parents that it's really helpful to create a sense of routine, and that one of the things that's really hard for students with disabilities right now is that they've lost their sort of normal school sense of routine, and that even just creating a structure out of what can seem like a sort of asynchronous day is really, really helpful.
Yeah, we're almost out of time. I really like the idea of what you said, that um, uh, also advice for parents. I mean, it's one thing which I'm always dealing with the big structures of things, but a little bit of advice for parents probably couldn't hurt. So we're going to put it up on the screen. The meeting that is coming up is January 30th, Saturday, January 30th, from 2 to 4 p.m. Parents of special ed children teachers, anybody, the entire community. Frankly, it's on Zoom. The whole world can participate. And we do thank Alex Zimmerman from Chalkbeat and Lauren Costantino from the city. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you really for taking extra care of our special kids in the Bronx and in New York City. We really appreciate both of you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Okay, we will say goodnight and we will see you next week. This week on Bronx Talk, we will be joined by Congressmember Adriano Espaillat. Tell us what it was like to be locked down in the Capitol building and also all the myriad of issues that are coming out of Washington these days. And we'll see you next week.